If she looks you in the face and says, Alex, I love you, what on earth is she saying? What does that mean?
It means that, well, it means a lot of things. It means that she respects me, that she wants to spend time with me and get to know me, and things along those lines.
Okay. Let's say that a young lady's been saying that to you for the past month. If your father calls you up tonight...
A week ago, I would have said I was a hard atheist. Today, I would say I'm agnostic.
Really?
And
why?
Just because I couldn't cite the authors or the works, but some of the stuff I was reading just about, one was a critique of Richard Dawkins, in which he talked about like specific reasons why he thought that either God could be proved as real, which I don't really follow, or reasons that he thought that that there had to be something other than just physical process. And I guess that's where I came down to the point of whether I can't really say whether it's true or not. The idea of a soul beyond, if you know, there is the belief that we are just complex chemical reactions. There's the belief that we're that, but that it's tied to a soul, which is outside of the physical plane. And I guess I can't really make up my mind which view is correct. So, I would if I saw, there's obviously no way, or there's no obvious way to show that a soul can't exist. And I can't say that I've necessarily found any evidence that one does. And that's why I'm undecided.
Okay. Okay, here's why I believe that Alex has a soul, that I have a soul. Because I'm convinced you have a free will. Why am I convinced of that? Because I'm convinced that tonight you can look back over the events of this day and you can critique yourself. You can say, when I did that, good, I want to repeat that tomorrow. When I did that, bad, I don't want to repeat that tomorrow. In other words, you have the ability of self-perception.
Right.
You can know yourself.
And why couldn't that be a complex chemical reaction itself?
Well, if it is, then it's not really you critiquing yourself, it's just you living out those chemical reactions.
Yeah.
In other words, I think determinism wins the day if there is no God. Because we're just biochemical reactions, highly complex, obviously we don't understand them all, but still, you reduce me to a chemical reaction. And I think that, would you see the movie Crash?
No, I actually haven't seen it.
All right, I want you to watch that movie, all right?
Okay.
Matt Dillon, right, plays this white racist police officer. He pulls his car over one night. He's giving a sobriety test to the African-American driver. All of a sudden, the woman comes out of the car to protest, and he starts fondling her sexually. Then they leave, and his fellow police officer asks for a transfer. He was so grossed out by it. Next day, Matt Dillon comes upon a car that's overturned, gas is leaking, the flames are coming, but he knows the driver's in there. He crawls in there. The woman driver raises her head, looks Matt in the face. It's the woman he fondled the night before. She screams, "Get out of here." He says, "No, I got to save you." The flames are getting closer and closer to the gas. His fellow police officers are saying, "Get out of there, you're going to blow." He stays in there in spite of the fact that all of his instincts for survival and self-preservation, not to be hauled into court on sex charges by the woman, say, "Get out of there and let her blow and you can save your life." Instead of that, he does what he ought to do. He does what he should do. He cuts her out of the seatbelt, saves her life. See, I think that's a tremendous example of soul. Meaning by that, all my instincts are telling me, get out, save your hide. But there's this sense of oughtness, what I should do, and I put my life on the line to save this woman. I think it's a tremendous example of that free will, of that ability to love, ability to critique my instincts and say, shut up, instinct, I'm going to do what's right instead of what my self-preservation instinct drives me to do. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, you could say that that choice to do what you ought to do and not follow your primal instincts could be just a product of the way you were raised. This police officer was racist, but he's also raised in such a way that he valued human life, and maybe in an emergency situation recognized this is a human life that I could save. And you could say that's also just instinct in a sense. It's more complex than just pure survival. I need to do whatever is going to save me. But it's the way he was raised to say this is how you be a good person, this is how you do well in society, and just applied to that situation.
Yeah, but isn't there a part of you that judges your instincts? Isn't there a part of you that judges the way you were raised? Isn't there a part of you that judges the innate drives that you have?
But that judging was also taught to me. That value of, to say, how can I determine if this is good or bad, was taught to me.
Sure. And a lot of morality was taught to me.
Exactly.
But when I become an adult, I have an ability to critique what I was taught and to figure out, do I want to stay with this or do I want to break with it?
But did you critique it purely, like would you have critiqued it in vacuum if you had just been raised this way and then set with no outside material and say, can you judge for yourself whether you think those are good ideas or not? Or do you have to experience a worldview, experience other people, read other things, other ideas, in order to gain some perspective to judge how you're raised?
I think both. I think obviously that's part of the beauty of a liberal arts education.
Right.
You're being taught how to judge more carefully and how to critique more clearly.
But there's some way you could critique without those tools, maybe extremely slowly and not very well, but you could still do it.
Absolutely. Two white women, Sarah and Angelina Grimke, grew up on a plantation in South Carolina. Their environment taught them slavery is crucial to keeping the economic wheels churning smoothly. Sarah and Angelina Grimke leave their plantation in South Carolina, go north and join the abolitionist movement. I think it's really clear, everything their environment was telling them, slavery is very beneficial. They chose to follow their conscience instead of follow their environment.
Yeah, or follow their morals.
Yeah.
And those morals they're taught that, at least among white people, that you have to respect one another, you have to be polite one another, and you have to give each other equal opportunity to have a good life. Maybe not amongst men and women at the time, but at least among other women, you have to treat them as equals. And so they think then, I can, maybe this shouldn't just apply to me. I don't think, maybe this should apply to our slaves as well. Maybe they should be given equal right. What makes us so different? And I don't necessarily think that thought process shows that they have soul. It just shows that they had enough of a mind to apply an idea they see here to something they see there and come to a conclusion.
Okay. All right, when I say soul, we better define it quickly. I mean free will, personality, individuality. So let me ask you, if she looks you in the face and says, Alex, I love you, what on earth is she saying? What does that mean?
It means that, well, it means a lot of things. It means that she respects me, that she wants to spend time with me and get to know me, and things along those lines.
Okay. Let's say that a young lady's been saying that to you for the past month. If your father calls you up tonight and says, Alex, I've been paying her $1,000 a week to love you, how would you feel?
I would feel betrayed and like I'd been tricked into meeting a person who didn't exist.
Okay, so would I. Okay, now does that not tell you that free will, individuality, personality, soul is real?
Yes,
that there's
certainly
more to her than just a sex drive. There's more to her than just instinct. There's a free will that can choose to love Alex or can say, you're gross, get lost.
Right. Yeah, I mean, certainly, to some extent. I still, my whole point is still that I think that all those things can still arise from natural physical process.
Okay. So then it's just a physical process when she says, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah, a very complex set of brain chemistry that when she's around me, she feels good and she thinks I'm interesting and whatever. And so she says that to let me know that she feels those things.
Okay, now, if what you say is true, my experience contradicts that. Why? I am convinced that I could be a deadbeat dad. I'm convinced I could really love and provide for my children. My experience is I don't have to do either. Second point, I am convinced to the root of my being that I could be unfaithful to my wife and I could commit adultery. Or I can choose to be faithful and loyal to my wife.
Right.
Okay, that's life as I experience it. That's why I cannot buy the worldview that says we are just complex biochemical reactions. I can't buy the worldview that says determinism wins the day. Not only that, think about the legal system in the United States, right? Little dude comes around the corner of the building. Balding, little gray hair, big stack of books under his arms. I haul back and hit the guy as hard as I can. I'm hauled into a court of law. The judge says, Cliff, what are you doing? Why'd you hit the guy? I said, wait, Your Honor, when I was a little kid, my dad abused me. And my dad had a balding head and he had little gray hair. And every time he'd abuse me, Your Honor, he'd take up a big book and just cream me over the head with it. And this guy just so reminded me of my dad that due to the influences of my environment, I had to hit him. Fortunately, the legal system in the United States is not based on that worldview. Fortunately, the legal system in the United States is based on, no, Cliff, you have a soul, you have a free will, and guess what, Cliff? You're responsible for smacking that professor. I'm sorry that your father abused you, but you still have a free will, and we're going to put you into jail for smacking that professor.
Yeah, but by turning the same coin, you could say that, sure, we have people who make bad choices in this country, and the way we're going to change that is through a legal system. It's not necessarily we're saying they had a free will that wasn't natural process, and that they just chose to do that. We're saying that because their environment raised to do that, we need to put them in a different environment where they'll be taught not to do that.
Yep.
And through physical process, then people, at least in theory, become better people through the system.
Yeah. My experience as a parent is that my children have a free will, meaning by that they got the same mom and dad, they got the same environment, they go to the same schools, but man, they are radically different. So that's why I'm convinced, because of that kind of evidence, that indeed there is a soul, a personality that we have.
Yeah, but couldn't that be attributed to genetics?
Yep, you can always reduce anything, right?
Right.
You can always reduce things.
Right.
But Alex, my experience in life is that's very dangerous. Why? Because a key part of your life is going to be standing in wonder that she really loves you and that she wants to be faithful to you. And if you reduce her love for you, if you reduce her faithfulness to you as being, well, it's simply a biochemical reaction, you're going to miss a big part of life.
See, I'm convinced. I don't think that's true. I think you can know that it's that way. You can know that all of this came about from the natural process, from the Big Bang. Billions of years later, we have this. And at the same time, you can say it's still beautiful. I can still appreciate it. I can still enjoy it to the fullest extent as any human being, even though knowing that at the atomic level it goes on in this way.
Are you being honest with yourself?
I think so. I think the natural process is beautiful, and when it's extremely complex, it's all the more beautiful. And I am honest with that. That's why I went in to study physics in the first place.
Orgasm is orgasm. Why on earth it's got to be with one woman? Because you're loyal to her? Because you love her? If that is just a physical chemical process, then why not have orgasm with many different women?
Because it would be a negative chemical process for me to see her hurt if she ever found out about it.
So what happens if she says to you it's fine?
Well, for certain people, that works for them, and I don't really know if I have a basis to judge them. I haven't thought about it very hard, but I don't know if I do or not. For me personally, if she's the kind of woman who's okay with that, then she's not the one I would have fallen in love with in the first place, because I'm not okay with that kind of relationship.
Why?
Because, I don't know specifically for me, it's partially the way I was raised, probably, just partially from the way I was raised and my genetics, my personality today, that if I was in some kind of, if I could try to have that intimate relationship with two people at the same time, I just, I haven't tried it, but I feel like I'd be really uncomfortable with it.
Okay, now I would guess that the reason you feel uncomfortable with it is because you've had some experiences that are evidence that indeed there is more to that relationship with that woman than just hooking up. Mm-hmm. That you really are two individuals with a free will, and you can choose to be loyal to each other, but you don't have to be loyal to each other. I don't care what your environment's taught you. Mm-hmm. You can violate your environment. I mean, isn't that a big part of the whole university experience, the whole college experience, right? We grew up in a certain environment, now we're here, whoopee-doo, let it rip.
Right.
Right?
But isn't that the environment here?
Yeah.
That suddenly the constraints are removed.
Yeah.
So.
And isn't it absolutely fascinating to watch different people make free choices to respond differently to the environment that's here?
Yeah, or they make, they go with the choices that they think typical of college students, and they go through those, and they decide, I liked this one, I didn't like this one, I'm going to stick with this one, that sort of thing. And then they end up as a certain kind of person based on those experiences. All
right. Well, now, Jesus Christ communicates, Alex, I love you. Respond to my love. Now, I would argue that that's free will involved here. Romeo says to Juliet, Juliet, I love you. Would you marry me? Juliet says, talk to me tomorrow. Tomorrow. Romeo says, Juliet, I love you. Would you marry me? Juliet says, tomorrow. Talk to me then. If that pattern continues, Romeo and Juliet will never be married. So love doesn't coerce, it doesn't manipulate, but it reaches, it initiates, and then it waits for a response. Jesus Christ says, Alex, I love you. I died on a cross to forgive you and to give you eternal life. Now, will you respond to me? And I would argue you don't have to respond or not respond.
Right.
You've got to choose.
So I feel like you can, at least you can make the argument that choice still comes as a byproduct of the way you're raised and your initial genetics, and that everything else, that the person you were at that point would have made this decision given that knowledge. A different person might have made a different decision, or you might have made a different decision at a different time, but who you are at a specific instance, given some new knowledge, will respond to it in a certain way.
Well, it's been an honor talking with you, man.
Certainly.
Thank you so much, Alex. Greatly appreciate it.
Because you're a part of a certain belief system, that belief system doesn't allow you to be an independent thinker. You're always going to have these belief systems clashing. You can't, it's hard to change your mind on certain issues when everything, when they all are tied into your one belief.
Sir, that is true for every single one of us. The law of non-contradiction applies in the East, in the West, to every agnostic, every atheist, every theist. A and non-A cannot both be true in the same way at the same time. The law of non-contradiction. So if you're an atheist, if you're an agnostic, if you're a Christian, if you're a Jew, if you're a hedonist, if you're Hugh Hefner in the Playboy philosophy, if you're Shirley MacLaine, we all, when we contradict, obviously, we disagree.
Yeah.
So now, what's your point?
Well, my point is, you're right, but that's with people, with religious people.
No, that's with atheists and agnostics and naturalists and playboys and hedonists and narcissists, materialists, capitalists, Republicans, Democrats. When you make a statement, this is the way it is, that means that which contradicts your statement is wrong.
Okay, and I would disagree, and I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example.
Okay, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, say, all right, I've heard you speak yesterday, and you don't believe in gay marriage. Let's take an example of for gay marriage. Okay, I personally do believe in gay marriage.
Yeah.
But if someone else convinces me that it is wrong, and I'll accept it. I'll say, okay, maybe gay marriage is wrong. That's fine. That's not going to change the rest of my beliefs. If it goes to stem cell research or take some other hot political issues, it's not going to change the rest of mine. But now, if you take anybody part of your Christian church and you convince them that actually gay marriage is should be legal and it should happen if you're gay, that's going to shake the core of everything you believe. Because it says directly in the Bible that gays shouldn't marry, that's not a right thing. So if someone does convince you that it is right, what does it say about the rest of the Bible? How can you trust anything else in the Bible if gay marriage it turns out to be a good thing? Like, how can you trust everything else in the Bible if that part of the Bible is wrong?
Oh. Well, how do you treat any textbook here at this fine university? Do you believe that if a textbook has one error in it, that the rest of it's all wrong?
No.
No, thank you.
No.
So it's not a problem, okay?
But then
If there's an error in the Bible, there's an error in the Bible.
Okay, but
I don't have a big problem with that.
all right.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do, because
Well, what's your problem with it?
if there's one error in the Bible, then how many other errors are there in the Bible?
Well, you better study it.
If there's an error in my textbook,
Yeah?
I can explain to you the error. I can explain to you if it's a calculus textbook. I can tell you, oh no, this, I could show you why it's wrong and crunch out some calculations. If on the other, if you go to the Bible and you look at other things like. Yeah, how can you argue to me like which ones are right and which ones are wrong? Because you have to take those on faith, whereas like I take things on reason, right?
Wrong.
Okay, then how do you go about deciding which parts of the Bible are right and which ones are wrong?
Well, first of all, we're going to deal with this issue of how do we take things?
Yeah.
You take things as an agnostic on faith.
No.
You have a worldview. Sir, you cannot prove agnosticism. Agnosticism is a faith position.
I'm not trying to prove agnosticism. I'm just saying.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
You can't prove agnosticism. It's impossible. You have faith that agnosticism is an accurate picture of reality. I have faith that Jesus Christ has an accurate picture of reality. We have two faiths. Guess what? Every atheist has faith that their view of reality is correct. They can't prove it. They have faith. Everybody has faith. Now, the question for us thinking human beings who appreciate reason is, here's the question. What is the evidence that your worldview, I don't care if it's atheist, agnostic, Christian, Muslim, what's the evidence that your worldview is accurate? That it tells you the truth about reality? That's the question you guys got to ask. It's a question I got to ask every day. What's the evidence that Jesus Christ's description of reality is correct? What's the evidence that Hugh Hefner's description of the purpose of life is correct? What's the evidence that the capitalist view of reality, that you guys are here for one purpose, to position yourself to get the highest paying job possible? Why? Because the purpose of life is to make money. That's faith, sir. You can't prove that to anybody. So the question is the same question for every Christian, Jew, agnostic, atheist, materialist, hedonist, and that question is, what is the evidence that your worldview is an accurate description of reality?
All right.
It's that simple.
No, that was awesome. Like, I actually
Thank
agree
you.
with everything you said there. You're a good speaker.
Thank
and
you.
That sounds really nice, but what happens when you get down to practical issues?
Yeah, let's go for them.
Okay, because I hear you, the hot topic seems to be like gay marriage and homosexuality. So, and it says like, okay, and I guess we'll go into politics and maybe how your religious views influence them. Who are we to say what homosexuals do, or what kind of version of religion they practice? Who are we to say that they shouldn't be able to marry? Who are you to say that they shouldn't be able to marry?
It's very, very simple. The question is there a purpose to human sexuality, or is human sexuality a cosmic accident? If human sexuality is a cosmic accident, it doesn't matter what you do sexually.
Yeah.
Totally relative, totally subjective. You can have sex with your dog, with 25 women, 50 men. It really doesn't matter, okay? Because it's all relative. But if there is a God who has created our sexuality, and if He created our sexuality for a purpose, then it would behoove every single one of us to find out what is the purpose for which He created our sexuality. That is obviously where Muhammad, the Torah, the Vedas and Upanishads, the New Testament kick in, claiming this is why we have our sexuality. And obviously the Bible insists that God gave us our sexuality for the purpose of one man making a lifelong commitment to one woman, and within that context enjoying sex as a gift from God. To rip sex out of that context is to trivialize yourself, your sex partner. It is to devalue someone and to treat them as a Barbie doll or as a stud. And Jesus Christ says, guess what? People are not Barbie dolls, they're not studs. They're human beings created in the image of God with personality. We can make a commitment to each other, and it's within the context of that lifelong commitment that we're to enjoy sex as a gift from God.
Okay, so what's wrong with two men being married? So what is wrong with that? If they can stay truthful to each other, like what's wrong with that? Or two women being married? What bad comes out of that situation?
Ultimately, the homosexual marriage is breaking the purpose that God created for a man and a woman to make a lifelong commitment to each other, not a man and a man, or a woman and a woman.
Okay,
now, ultimately, why is a monogamous homosexual relationship wrong? Ultimately, I do not know. I can explain to you why a promiscuous homosexual relationship is wrong, in the same way that I could explain to you why promiscuous heterosexual relationships are wrong. But why specifically a monogamous homosexual relationship is wrong, I do not know.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good because...
I can tell you why your lifestyle's wrong. You want to hear that?
Yeah, okay, shoot.
Okay.
I'm not scared of you.
It's not a question of being scared of me. Remember, we're searching after truth.
Yeah.
All right, I'm convinced that you are hurting yourself and hurting women when you have sex outside of the context of a lifelong commitment. Why? Because I'm convinced that sexual intimacy is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us to form loyalty, trust, commitment. And when you have sex, that is communicating with your body. I give myself to you, totally. But the problem is, although you're doing that with your body, you're not doing that with your mind. Because what you're doing is you're leaving the loophole that says, I'm sorry, I'm not totally committing my mind, my personality, my being to you. I'm just making a quick commitment in my body to have sex with you. Therefore, when you rip apart the person, your body from your mind, you're ripping yourself apart in a way that's very unhealthy. It's destructive. Yes, I know that you have physical pleasure, but there is more to you than just your body. You're a person. And as a person, you can connect on an intimate level with a person. And that is why I'm concerned that you're hurting yourself and you're hurting your sex partners when you have sex outside of that lifelong commitment.
I mean, it really, I mean, for me, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Because if you have a man and a woman who aren't ready to get married yet because we're in college, it's impossible financially for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And one guy has sexual urges for a girl and is attracted to that girl, and that girl's attracted to that guy. And, they have sex, and they both agree that, they don't want to be in a relationship. How does that hurt any one of them? Because he gets what he wants, because it's a natural desire.
Yes.
That we have, it's better that it's fulfilled. You got to enjoy life, and it's very enjoyable. So what bad comes out of it? Like,
good, because you're not a machine. You're
right.
not a thrill-making device. At the root of your being, you're a human being with a mind, a personality. If you're just a machine, go ahead and hook up. But if you're more than a machine, then what you got to ask yourself is it wisest for me to give my entire being, mind, personality, and body to one person who we make a lifelong commitment to, or is it best for me simply to have an impersonal hookup in order to go through orgasm so I can have a physically pleasurable experience? And according to Christ and the Bible, and according to my observation, as I work with prostitutes and pimps in different cities, and as I work now a little bit more with the child sex traffic trade, what you got to realize is you're not just a body. You're a body and a personality. And God gave us this gift of sex to enjoy with a person in a personal way, not just with an object that gives you physical gratification.
But you could definitely still have an emotional or spiritual connection with a girl before you're married. You can have
Yes.
a relationship.
Yes, absolutely.
And okay, you could also do that with an open relationship too. You could be friends with a girl, and you could still have like a spiritual and emotional connection to her.
Okay, but here's the point. Here's where the destruction comes in. You're right. You can have a relationship. And then when you have sex with that woman that you're building a relationship with, there is a bonding that occurs. That if you're thinking, it's getting deeper. Then if you break that bond and hop into bed with someone else and you're starting to build another bond with them, you keep on breaking like that and you're scarring. You're hurting. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting her. Because you begin to bond and then you break. You begin to bond and then you break. And it's like keeping on ripping open a scab. You're breaking and it's hurting.
Man, I mean, I'm grateful for every relationship I've had. I'm sure like everybody else agrees that, I'm grateful for every single relationship I've had in the past. And yeah, it had to end and that sucks, but you get over it and life moves on. I think you can learn from the relationships you've had in the past, and they turn out being good things in the future.
Okay.
Because if you wait for one girl let's put it another way. I mean, yeah, okay, like I said, past relationships can be good things.
Okay, how do you feel if your mother's sleeping around with a bunch of different men?
I probably wouldn't like that, but
why not?
I know she wouldn't do that, and I know my dad wouldn't cheat on her either.
Okay, why are you grateful for that?
Well, that's a really complicated question. I don't want to go off too much.
Really complicated question.
But it creates, like you said, like eventually it does allow for, a greater bond. I do agree with you there, but that's later in their life. They got married when they're 30. I'm still 21. Like, they got married when they're 30, and yeah, and it's good because they are able to create a stronger emotional bond. And they're able to raise children better. It's more stable. It's a more stable system.
Yep. Good. Now, all of a sudden, I've been fooling around. My fiance's been fooling around with a lot of different sex partners. All of a sudden, we walk down an aisle, and we say, "I do." And all of a sudden, we're trying to build a trust relationship, a loyal relationship. But we both know the history of the other, that we really like to play the field. But now we're making a commitment to each other. And now we're trying to trust each other.
Yeah.
See the problem?
Well,
if my history is playing the field, what on earth gives her the confidence that I'm going to stop playing the field?
Well, me personally, I'm probably not going to go for a girl who I've known has played in the field a lot.
Whoa! Oh, baby, I like where this one's going. All right, explain that one. Booyah. So you can play the field, but she can't, right? Here we go. Thanks for your honesty, man. That was well put. Because you weren't just speaking for yourself, you were speaking for a lot of guys, obviously. So it's just fine for me to go out and play the field. But when I marry her, she better not be that type of person.
I think the important thing is if you do have an open relationship, then the important thing is just to be honest, to say straight up that, hey, I'm not looking for a close relationship. And if everybody's honest with each other, nothing bad can come out of it. If she's honest with me, nothing can go wrong.
Good. Okay, well, I love the honesty of a student I got to talk to at the University of Florida down in Gainesville. This guy steps out of the crowd and he says, "Now, Cliff, you got to understand, I really love my girlfriend. She really loves me. We're not married. We have sex all the time. There's nothing wrong with that." I said, "Well, man, it's outstanding to hear that you really love her. Tell me about it." He waxed poetic for a couple of minutes. I interrupted him and said, "One question. Tonight she's involved in a car accident and her beautiful face and her beautiful body is totally rearranged and scarred by the car wreck. Will you still love her tomorrow? And the guy was brutally honest. He said, no way, man. If her face is totally rearranged in a car wreck tonight, I'm going to ditch her and go out and get some other fox. I said, okay, now let me ask you a second question. Does your girlfriend really love you? He said, oh yeah, man, she really does. I said, tell me about it. He waxed poetic for a minute. I interrupted him and said, now, tonight you are involved in a car wreck, sir. Your handsome face is totally scarred. Your body is totally rearranged. Is she still going to love you tomorrow? And the dude said, yeah. I said, okay, my man. According to Jesus Christ, she's ready to make a lifelong commitment to you, to really love you, which is not just infatuation. It's not just excitement. It's not just convenience. She is ready to love you, to seek your highest good, to give herself to you, and to make a lifelong commitment. But you, my man, are just using her. That's why Christ says, enjoy sex within marriage, because you don't use people. You respect people. You love people.